Have you ever walked into a room only to forget why you entered in the first place? Or have you ever tried to remember something, but it seemed to be stuck on the tip of your tongue? 100% of you answered in my survey. This happens to you at least some of the time. And while these are all very normal and common memory errors, there are countless methods that you can use to remember things, ranging from the simple to the complex, and many of them you probably already use today without even realizing it. According to the American Psychological Association's website, Glossary of Psychological Terms, memory is defined as the capacity to encode, store, and retrieve information. These terms refer to the process in which memory is created. Now, 3/4 of you said that you would like to improve your memory. Well, after listening to my speech, you will be able to identify the different types of memory, as well as some different methods that you can use to improve your memory. Now, the key to improving your memory is to understand how it works. There are 3 different types of memory: sensory, short-term, and long-term. Sensory memory includes visual images and anything that we can perceive with our senses. It normally only lasts a few seconds. Short-term memory comes from our sensory memory, and it is only our interpretation of the information, but it can last around 30 seconds. Now, long-term memory is the most stable, and it lasts the longest. It comes from our short-term memory, but many memory errors come about when short-term memory is not properly encoded into long-term memory. Now, as with many things, to improve your memory, it can first be helpful to look at some errors, and then we'll look at some different methods that you can use to improve your memory. According to an online article entitled Forgetfulness, 7 Types of Normal Memory Problems by Harvard Health Publications in April 2012, 3 of the most common errors in memory include blocking, absent-mindedness, and transience. Now, blocking is when you try to remember something, but it seems to be stuck on the tip of your tongue. This is a temporary inability to retrieve a memory and can become more common with age. Now, absent-mindedness is when we don't pay enough attention to new information. This happens when we multitask or we daydream, and so the information isn't encoded securely into our long-term memory. Transience occurs when a memory is lost over some period of time. This is the use it or lose it aspect of memory. Now, there are many methods you can use to remember things, but one of the largest areas is called Mnemonic Devices. According to an online article titled Introduction to Memory Techniques from mindtools.com, accessed February 2014, Diana Pomeroy says that mnemonic devices are like memory tools that help you to remember difficult information in an easy-to-remember form. Now, mnemonic devices can take many forms, from rhymes to songs, acronyms, stories, visual images, or even just simple associations. They can help you remember anything from lists to class material to even people's names. Now, our brains are very good at remembering sensory information. However, most of the information that we're presented with is simply words on a page. And to help us remember that, we can use mnemonic devices. When creating mnemonic devices, it is helpful to make the imagery as vivid as possible, using all of your senses, because often the weirder or more bizarre the imagery, the more likely it will last in your memory. Now, imagine that you want to remember your grocery list, so you use a story mnemonic. Perhaps you imagine yourself walking through your house, and different giant items on your grocery list jump out at you. Now, the more vivid that you make this memory, with different sights and sounds, the more likely you will be able to remember it at the grocery store than had you tried to just remember the simple string of words. Some other devices include chunking and negative practice. Chunking is the way that we remember long strings of numbers, such as telephone numbers or passcodes. It is easier for us to remember this information if we chunk it into smaller pieces of 3 or 4. Now, according to a page on the Dartmouth Academic Skills Center website from July 2012 titled 9 Ways to Aid Your Memory, negative practice is an efficient way to improve your learning. Negative practice refers to the way of learning from our own mistakes. For example, if you take a practice exam and you study for the problems that you got wrong and you learn why, there is a greater chance that you will remember this information come test time because it helped to reinforce the correct response. Also, when learning, it is helpful to incorporate your new information into knowledge that you already have, because these associations between the new and the old will help you to remember the information better. In conclusion, I hope you all have a better understanding of how memory works and know some different ways that you can improve your memory. I have talked about the different types of memory, as well as some errors in memory and some different mnemonic devices and techniques that you can use to improve your learning and memory. Memory is a skill that requires practice, and like any skill, the more that you practice, the better you will become, and the more solid your memories will be. Memory is such an important part of our everyday lives that it deserves the same dedication as any other aspect. According to, or as said by the Roman philosopher Marcus Cicero, memory is the treasury and guardian of all things.